This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Did you know you can use stamps on your miniatures? I certainly didn't, at least not until this week when I received a small but curiously heavy package in the mail from a new little company called Goblin Hobbies. Inside this package, I found everything I would need to get started stampin', including some silicone stampers, 10 Stampin' plates, 4 bottles of Stampin' color, as well as some adorable little goblin miniatures and accessories. After reading the instructions, I found the basic workflow for using these stamps was quite simple. First, wipe down the Stampin' plate with acetone and a cotton makeup pad. Fill the desired pattern with Stampin' color, scrape off the excess using the Stampin' scraper, apply the design using the silicone stamper, and then stamp the design on your miniature. Then wipe down the plate with acetone, wipe off the scraper with acetone, and then repeat this process as many times as you want with whatever colors you want and whatever designs you want. Pretty cool, honestly. I did find there was definitely a learning curve to using these stamps. There is a little bit of a technique to it, so I started out by using the tutorials over on the Goblin Hobbies YouTube channel, which were super helpful, and any issues I was having were basically answered by these videos. And while you might be thinking, Dana, that is not the Goblin Hobbies YouTube channel, that's Goobertown Hobbies. Or wait, are we watching Casey from eBay Miniature Rescues? In a word, yes. Casey and Brent have been working on this company called Goblin Hobbies in secret for some time now, and their first main product is this stamping system as well as these adorable little goblin miniatures. And honestly, I'm just super happy for both of them. Congratulations, guys, on your new company, and I wish you all of the success in the world making these stamps and whatever else you decide to put out from Goblin Hobbies in the future. These stamps that you've made are super interesting, but let's do some tests to see how they perform in the field. I thought one of the best ways to test out these stamps initially would be on my fingernails, as Goblin Hobbies Stampin' color is it's nail polish. Sure, it is a little bit thicker and more matte than the nail polish that I'm used to, which makes sense given the applications, but it's basically just nail polish. For those of you who are a little bit confused, basically what Casey and Brent have done here is taken the technology of nail stampin' from the nail art industry, where it has existed for some time now, and applied it to miniatures. And this isn't a secret or anything, they're super upfront about this in their videos over on the Goblin Hobbies YouTube channel, and you can use any of these supplies with any existing nail polish and nail art supplies. Which makes sense, as when you think about it, the two hobbies really do share a lot in common. Nail polish racks work great for storing miniature paints. Nail decals are basically just water slide decals, and you can totally use those on your miniatures as well. Although I found that there's a little bit of a resolution problem. A lot of nail polish decals are too low in resolution to be applied to miniatures. They look a little bit fuzzy. So why not apply nail decals to miniatures as well? Genius. So this is not a new technology, just a new application of it. And what Casey and Brent have really done here is just made Warhammer themed nail stamps, featuring patterns, symbols, and logos you might commonly want to use on miniatures. Which I think is doubly cool, because now I can theme my nails to whatever army or faction I'm playing at the table. So you can definitely expect me to be showing up at the table with orc-themed nails from now on. But do you know what else you can expect from me from now on? That's right, it's this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website and hosting platform that I've been using for just a little bit over a decade now for all of my website needs. and it's super easy to use. Just pick from one of their fabulously designed pre-made templates or build your own template from scratch using Squarespace Blueprint. I've been using my current Squarespace site to host a gallery of my painted miniatures, all of my painting reference documents, as well as an online store, which has a variety of payment options built in for your customers to use. And you can sell not only physical products on this site, but also digital products, services, memberships, all kinds of stuff. So if you need a website, why not check out squarespace.com today for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Dana Howl for 10% off your very first purchase of a website or domain. Now back to our video. My first few test runs with these stamps were a little bit amateur, but after a few tries, I found that speed is really the most common issue, as this Stampin' color dries super fast, so you have to work quickly for best results. I also tried using some regular nail polish from the dollar store as well, and yeah, it works great. At the top of my list currently is getting my hands on some color shifting nail polish, some glow-in-the-dark nail polish, and of course, lots of neon pinks, greens, yellows, and stuff like that. In fact, having these new tools is definitely motivating me to paint my nails more, but also just to use more textures on my miniatures. Whereas before, when it was just water slide decals, I tended to avoid using it whenever possible. Of course, this isn't going to replace the need for water slide decals entirely. There are certain copyrighted symbols you might want that aren't present on these stamps, but in a lot of cases, especially if you play Space Marines, orcs, or basically any faction in the old world that has some sort of heraldry or symbols or textures, this is a total game changer. In fact, owning these new stamps has single-handedly motivated me to start finally painting my Bretonnian army, because it just seems so much easier now. Previous to buying these stamps, I was sort of committed to spending like $50 to $100 on a lot of custom water slide decals on Etsy for my Bretonnian army, because I wanted every single knight to have their own unique heraldry. But even with just the two basic Stampin' plates that come in this starter set, I feel like I'm pretty much set for any sort of medieval knights I'll ever want to do up in proper regalia in the future. I also really love that there's no scarcity here either. You can use as many of these as you want, as many times as you want, in as many colors as you want. Whereas with water slide decals, I sometimes find that I hoard the good ones and end up just never using them. The only consumables you need to worry about using here is some 99% acetone, which you can buy at pretty much any drugstore, dollar store, pretty much anywhere, as well as these little cotton pads that you can use to soak up the acetone and wipe things off. You're also going to want some Scotch tape or packing tape to correct any mistakes on the stamper when that happens and to easily clean the stamper off. And of course, nail polish. Again, this is all stuff that's available at your local stores, drugstores, general stores, dollar stores. I really like that this product doesn't have a lot of expensive consumables that are only available from one place. So far, I have been using the orc plate to add all kinds of extra bits and textures and stuff to my orcs, the industrial plate to add all kinds of fun extra warnings and hazard symbols to my terrain, and I've also been painting some heavily customized howling griffins using some Bretonnian bits to test out how much texture I can fit onto a single model without it being totally overpowering. As you can see here, one of the nice things about the white Stampin' color is that you can glaze any transparent paint on top of it to get a color of your choice, which I think looks really good here, where I wanted a really bright, striking yellow and didn't want to have to build up to it with multiple layers of paint. I also bought some cheap yellow nail polish from the store, but I found that if I really want that bright opacity, it's much easier to just use the white stamp and paint yellow over top of it. Overall, I'm still in my learning period with these stamps. You can see some of the marines I've made look a little bit messy. Part of this is because I foolishly decided to prime these with a brush-on primer instead of my airbrush. But part of it is also just that in some places, I used more than one decal on top of each other, or tried to use the decal multiple times and correct it, or paint on top of decals. And the multiple layers of paint, I think I underestimated how quickly that can look quite thick. So like any hobby tool, it's not a perfect system. It requires a little bit of practice to get good at it, but I am confident that this is something I'm going to use a lot in the future. So definitely expect to see it on a lot of my future projects. Another thing I found really helped a lot was this silicone tape that they included in my package instead of the silicone stamper. You can buy this stuff at normal hardware stores, apparently, and it works super well for getting your stamps into all the nooks and crannies on your models that are hard to reach otherwise. They also included this larger rectangular Stampin' pad, which is apparently a more limited tool that they're testing out before bringing it to market. Everyone in the first 400 orders on the site got one of these, and I found it's really helpful for larger areas of texture. If you do want to get these stamps for yourself, I have provided a link down to the website down below in the description. However, they are currently sold out of everything. So congrats guys on your first wave of sales, but I think they have some sort of sign up thing if you want to be notified when the stamps are back in stock. So I provided those links down in the description if you want to check that out. Thank you so much as always to our wonderful patrons for your ongoing support. And this week, I would especially like to thank Chris Won't. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to Casey and Brent for sending me these cool stamps. And I will see you in the next video.